What's up, guys? This is season 1, episode 3. No Madison Chase. I'm your host today. The episode title is Somebody's Son. Check us out. Let's get it going.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
You like this, how it opened up, huh?
I did. I thought, yeah, right there. Yeah, I won't sing it for you because I don't want to mess it
Well,
up.
I love when you sing, though.
You don't want to hear that.
What's up, guys? So this is episode 3, and it's an intimate setting. It's just us two, so we're going to get into it today, you know?
Yes.
But first up, where can they find you? Let them know where they can find you on social media.
Hey, everybody. It's Paula, Bryant, Ellis, and you can find me on Instagram and Twitter, Bryant Ellis.
What's up, guys? I'm DeAnjilo. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at DeAnjilo, DeAnjilo, and at DeAnjilo on Twitter, at DeAnjilo TV on Twitter, excuse me. But yeah, it's just us two.
I know.
You know, our special prayers and hope they safe wherever they at. But it's just us. You know, we good.
We can hold it down. We can do it.
I don't know, man. This seat's kind of hot, Madison. I don't know how she do this, man.
All right.
No, but we had another very heavy, thick episode, and we were just talking about it. But they always grab our attention. That first scene is as if they're still trying to get,
I know,
still trying to get a crowd. So just in case they just check in, you know what I mean. That scene always gets our attention. So, but this time we see the sheriff and the deputy basically end up. Well, we saw a lot, but at the end of this first scene, more or less, we saw this sheriff and a deputy looking at a dead 17 to 18-year-old African-American male. And he said something very interesting. He said that, this was like a gang war or whatever, and wear your cameras and your protesters for stuff like this.
Yeah.
And so, very, very obviously being very stern about it, not unapologetic about it. But how did you feel about that interaction and how it ended?
Yeah, I thought that was powerful. I thought that was... the way they continue to take all of these different situations and kind of change them around and do the flip-flop, the black-white kind of view, right? Is always so powerful because making that statement, now where's all your cameras, was so powerful in that moment, right? It's sad, and it's something that we always know that we're dealing with, right? We saw this shootout, or we heard this shootout, and we heard... we saw cops running and we didn't know what they were running to. And then ultimately it was black on black crime.
Right. Which is, it's interesting because, obviously it's very difficult to like or agree with the sheriff. But in this case, there's a lot of truth to that because obviously that is still something that's very prevalent in our communities. And something that is, well, to an extent is publicized, but not. I think that's what pop culture believes to be the case anyway. However, I think in our community, when it's kind of something we're focused on a lot of other things as opposed to.
Well, and the whole setup of that entire scene, right? Yeah. Because you mentioned the title when you were opening Somebody's Son, and then it just kind of hit me all throughout that whole show because I didn't catch the title.
That's a good point. Yeah. It's so obvious. Yeah, you're right.
Right. And so just the whole start of that scene where they're going to a house looking for a missing young boy, right? And then gunfire, shots fired, how appropriate. Right. And then all of a sudden there is another, unfortunately, young African-American male dead in the streets. Yeah. And it's somebody's son. Yeah. So they're looking for somebody's son, and then here is somebody laying here. And
Ashe says that, right? Like you said.
Yeah. That's right.
She's like, she says, this is somebody's son because I guess as a police officer is something we see a lot. They're numb to it. I mean, the only person in that scene who act how us normal humans would act is Preston. He reacted to seeing that. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
And even Ashe still has an empathetic heart towards.
But she's built up a wall.
Right. She's built up a wall because I guess appears that cops have to do that. But even her, she admits you never get used to that. So that was really interesting dialogue. Also, we're seeing them get a little bit trusting each other as much as they possibly can more. Yeah.
There was a little scene later on. We'll talk about that I thought Sarah dropped in a little dig on that whole trust thing. Did you catch that?
I did catch that.
Yes.
No, if I forget, please remind me. We'll definitely get to that. But what we saw in the next scene was, we got to see a lot more of the sheriff, actually, his personal life. But in the very next scene, he's at the pool with the deputy. and they're playing pool, and so there's a retired police officer there, and he basically is trying to do this petition to get Officer Beck fired.
I thought that was interesting.
It's very interesting dialogue because, now from my perspective in that scene, it seemed like, okay, there's pressure from all angles here, also for the sheriff. From outside people, police officers are not. They're like, okay, why are you covering up for this guy so much? Or what it appears to be, you're covering up for this guy. So there's a pressure on his side. And we already know the deputy is Officer Beck's close friend. Yeah.
Right.
So
Did you find it interesting? I thought, of all the places to want to get this signature, was at the pool hall.
Right.
When they were in a social moment.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's when in the show, that's where the real police officers appear.
Right.
Yeah, drunk or not drunk. You know what I mean? Ash said a very interesting quote. She's like, and I agree with it, when you're drunk, it just amplifies who you really are.
Yeah.
So obviously the guy was drunk and probably would use that excuse in the future, but at the end of the day, those are the words that came out of his mouth. So it was just very interesting. That scene was interesting. How did you feel about that scene? I know it's open-ended question.
Yeah, no. I thought about it. I really only thought about it from the perspective of this is the place that they chose to get the signature and ask for the signature, and and the friend put him in a situation where were they really trying to bond with him, or where was it this setup where this is all they really wanted from him was to get the peer pressure?
Well, you think the sheriff was in on it?
I don't know. I can't. I still can't read him 100%, right? Because they continue to put little twists and turns in people's characters. Right. So even when we see the lieutenant who shows up a little later and he tries to justify, right? He goes to see Miss Campbell, Joey's mom, right?
Yes,
he says, I'm really one of the good guys.
Yes.
Right.
And I'm getting confused. Like those are two different characters for sure.
Those are two different characters.
I keep
the sheriff and the
me.
lieutenant.
Yeah.
So.
Because who's the football coach? The football coach yesterday.
That's the lieutenant.
That is the lieutenant.
That's
okay.
the lieutenant.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So,
So I think the way some of those characters are being played, it's still a little misleading on ultimately who they are.
Yeah.
And so I'm not 100% sure on who I think the sheriff is.
Right.
If he's genuine or not.
Right.
In the same way with the lieutenant, I just
can't really. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're looking at the definition of systematic racism.
Oh my God.
Well, I mean. And it's I really liked seeing because I went back and watched the last episode, the dialogue between just the lieutenant and his daughter.
Oh yeah,
and she's like, I heard you call him a black ass.
Yeah,
and like,
that's racist.
That's racist, straight up. And he justifies it, but it's just it brings into question. You know what I mean? Like,
and the way he did it. Oh, I didn't do it because he was black. Really? Yeah.
Right. And it brings into question the intentions behind. Because I think we definitely see that there's systematic racism, but is some of it subconscious because they're just exposed to a lot of black people killing each other, or is it because they're from the South and they're prejudiced and racist, like you know what I mean, or probably maybe a combination of both. But my eyes are being open to, because I personally don't get insight into why systematic racism occurs as much. I'm just more so a product of having to deal with it.
We are. And what's unfortunate is, as we know that we've seen those those situations, and I'm not going to necessarily say negative, but situations where we have seen our young African American men murdered, and always being led to believe that it is that African American male in the wrong, right? And that is who African American males are. It's unfortunate because there are so many amazing young African American men out here that are doing amazing things, and not to say that those who have been innocently killed weren't doing amazing things, but we don't highlight that, right? We're not showing that. And so you see a little bit that with the police force, I think, with all you have is the one African-American male, right, in the police force. Now he's caught up in this situation. He has no allies whatsoever in this camp.
Except for maybe his deputy friend who's pretty
excuse me. And then we find the union drops him.
Yeah.
Right? And so, but here he is, right? He's this young African-American male trying to do a good thing, but none of that's highlighted.
Right. No, yeah. And I know this is jumping ahead, but I really loved seeing, how did you feel about this, the dynamic between him and his wife, and how, just, you know, he's stressed. Obviously, how can you not be stressed?
Yeah.
And how she handled it. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was like goals. Like just seeing the way, you know, it wasn't, because in a lot of ways that can end up being an argument, because obviously he's stressed and he's not being sweet and nice to her.
Are you talking about the scene when he asked her to pick up the kids?
Like that throughout the whole episode, from him, that from, you know, the plumbing situation and that the dialogue there, we just got insight into the dynamic of their relationship.
I love that they drew them together instead of separating
exactly
them,
and
right?
I think
and dividing the relationship, showing that there is real strength and bond in the marriage. I really like the fact that they did that, because so many times we see all of these shows and all they do is tear marriages apart. There are a lot of amazing long-term marriages out there. Again, something we don't showcase, right? Excuse me, we don't showcase. So I love the way they're playing this out, that they pulled them together instead of tearing them apart.
I like
and the intimate scene, right, of them in the shower, and she goes and she's there.
Well, that last scene was powerful too, because I mean, we're talking about the last scene now, but it was so many different intimate.
The build up, the montage of cutting back and
everyone was
forth.
in a very intimate scene. Like Ashe was talking to her daughter.
Alicia,
she's in the car crying.
She gets the car.
So it's just like
when they
everyone's really
car.
intimate scene, like in a different way. I love the way that it was just really good.
It was good, right?
Yeah,
that was a great montage.
To speak to your point about the marriage, I like seeing that, because I think that's what differentiates this show with Fox. Is not about drama after drama after drama after drama. Everything that's done is intentional, and it's supposed to represent something.
Right.
And so it's not just like everybody's bad, everybody's good.
Right.
Everybody's, you know what I mean? There's layers to it, and I think that's what draws me into it, because of everything we're seeing.
I agree. Yeah.
But I would say that I just loved seeing that, like, them together, like, and how they supported each other, because that's how it's supposed to be. Like,
it should be, right?
Yeah. So and then it was a black family, like, you know what I mean, like a successful building one. So it's very well put together. I appreciated that personally.
I did too. Yeah. Kudos to them for that, because I really appreciate that. We just don't see enough of it on TV.
Period.
Yeah.
Period. So what we saw a lot of female pastor. What was her name?
Pastor Janae.
Pastor Janae.
Yeah.
So
what did you think about the scene with the first scene I think we see her in tonight was she's talking to the governor. Right. They're sitting there eating, and she says, I want to serve and I want you to serve.
Yeah.
What was that? Like,
yeah.
What's your take on that?
I really because actually the first thing we saw was when she was talking to Ashe and Preston, like all of them together. That was, we saw a lot of her, because the last thing we saw of her last week was when she was, you know, it's the kind of like odd angle of her, and just like looking very
sneaky
devious.
smile she went out with.
Yeah, so we're seeing a little bit more of her agenda, and maybe an aspect of contradiction when it comes to her hands in the neighborhood, but it all still appears to be pointing in a direction of, I'm trying to make the neighborhood better. I'm trying to look out for the low class.
Yeah.
And you know, she's doing that through force as well. You know what I mean? It's all still part of that agenda.
You gotta play the cards you dealt.
Yeah. You gotta get your hands dirty. But when I saw her interaction with the governor and how she was like, I'm not the other pastor that she used to work with. I love that. She was like, I'm not the same person. We're not gonna be able to do this the same way. And the governor's like, okay, let's cut the bullshit. What's your agenda? What do you want?
Right.
And she says it, and I believed her. How did you feel? Like, how did you feel about that scene?
I wanted, when she made the statement, I want to serve, I wanted someone to define what does serve mean.
Right. It was ambiguous.
It was very.
Yeah.
It was about this big.
Yeah.
I don't know where to go with it. I was like, okay, what does that mean?
Okay, well, explain.
Yeah. And then she says to the governor, I want you to serve too, which is interesting, that the next time we see her and the governor, they're at
the house.
Joey's house, right? Joey Campbell's. They're going to see the mother.
How did you feel about that? Didn't that feel awkward?
It's too late.
Yeah.
And it was off show.
Yeah.
And I got it, but it was still too late. You know what I mean? It was
all show.
To me, if it was genuine, no one would have known the governor was there.
But was that because the pastor appears to always want cameras on as part of her agenda, even their meeting.
But that's my point, right? If it was genuine.
Right. So you don't think the pastor's genuine about trying to get Joey Campbell?
I I think
justice.
I think she wants justice, but I think she's going to leverage everything she possibly can, and so she's playing that card of having the media wherever she goes. The governor pointed out we could have met in a more intimate place,
exactly.
and you chose this very public place, right? You're
Right.
playing the game. You
Right.
say you're not the other bastard, but you're playing the
Right,
game.
right.
Like,
so
you
it's a
read
little
the
similar.
rules,
Yeah,
right.
there's some similarities.
So but that's my point, right? If you really cared about, because the governor wasn't there at the very beginning. Now we're talking months later when this young man was slain. No
Right.
one was there.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you show up on my doorstep with cameras.
Right.
You could have done that differently.
Right.
It could have definitely been, and I think it should have been a more intimate setting if it was genuine.
If it was genuine.
If it was genuine.
Well, no, she has her agenda. She's trying to
But
get
that's
clout.
politician.
Yeah, she's trying to get clout
I
in
used
her
to work
black
for
community.
an elected official.
Yeah. So I mean, you can get. I mean, is this
They're
realistic?
all, oh my God.
What you've seen?
Yeah,
So definitely.
they're all about it. Yeah.
It still kills me to see her. That scene was crazy. This is again last episode, but just them at the party, and essentially they're there.
The frat party.
No, not the frat party. This
Which
is
one?
last episode when they're at the prison. Basically, the guy who's showing what his prison. You know what I mean? Like that scene just is like, wow, like this $25,000 a plate. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, wow, this is like, you know, it's just a world I've never been exposed to, or even like, and it just kind of like makes you kind of sick in your stomach, like to like see stuff
does.
like that.
It does.
But so yeah, just seeing more about the governor. Do you like her?
Helen Hunt, the role she's playing
Her
as Governor
role as a person.
Amos, is it Governor Amos or something like that? Amos,
yes.
Governor Amos.
Amos.
I like the way she's playing the character. I do.
Do you? I mean, as a person, do you like? Obviously, yeah, she's a great actress, but in this show, if she's a real person, do you like her?
My thing with politicians is I believe that even the most amazing ones, and I've met some that start out wanting to make a difference, ultimately to survive in that
Learn the
world,
game.
you got to.
So I think we see this character because they do point out that she's a new governor.
Right.
So I think we see her early on when she still believes, maybe not, I mean, she's governor, but she still believes that she can make a difference. Right. And so I think that part of the journey seems to be real and genuine.
Yeah.
But it's at what point when they realize if you really want to remain governor, right, a long-term standing, you have to play that game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and speaking of governors, we saw Penn Mulder.
Yeah,
he
that
represents
name.
himself.
I know.
Oh,
when he
man.
shores up on the doorstep.
Right.
Of Alicia.
I wanted to give you my condolences. Yeah, that was really interesting, and well, I guess my question to you is more so I was about to give my opinion, but how do you feel about what she decided to do, how she handled it, and why she decided to do it? Because she made it clear why.
Yeah, she did. I was kind of heartbroken to see that was the way that she had to go. I understand it. Like you know, she's out there fighting for the name of her son, and she's by herself, right? Even she makes a point we find out that the father hadn't been around for 15 years, right?
Yeah.
So it's very clear that she's been on this journey by herself. She has an only child, and now that only child is being taken away from her, right? So she's willing to do, as a mom, whatever she has to do to uphold that name of her son. So I get why she would go that way. I wish it didn't have to be that way, right? That we could have more confidence in a system that is supposed to be there to protect everybody, right? And she loses that confidence, I guess, because when Ashe asked her the question about, you know, when did Jesse have a drinking problem? And it was interesting enough, that was a little bit of a twist, right? So we find out he was legally drunk, and that he had an instant before.
A history, yeah.
And not necessarily a history, right? They say it was an instant. And even when you got to the house, the frat brother said he really didn't drink, right? So, but yet the mother, in trying to discipline him and show him a different path, because she was afraid he was going to go down the path of the father, she says she sends him to this rehab, which ultimately comes back and kind of burns him, right? Isn't that interesting? It
is very interesting, because I believe her, because you could not, but it's like, and that I think Ashe's response was perfect. She said that only two people really know what happened. We can only go by everything that we're accumulating. And but yeah, it's just you never know. Like I mean, you just never really know, and I think it's very unfortunate. I understand the pressure that she feels. My question though, do you feel like at this point, she's a mom, and obviously she's biased in the case. How can you not be? Do you think she's seeking truth or seeking just to put him in jail? Like, does she doesn't appear. Yeah, I don't want to lead you in a direction. Just the question.
You're talking about Alicia.
Alicia, yeah. Is she seeking the truth for her son in regards to what really happened, or is she just seeking someone to blame?
I think she started out seeking the truth and wanting to be objective. I think, right, this is what we see happen. We're starting to see this split of people who she believed in the system, and she tells Ashe, I trusted you. You looked me in the face and you told me, you were seeking the truth. You were here to police the police.
Right.
And now I feel like because you've thrown these hurtful things up at me, and maybe Ashe could have asked those questions a little softer.
Yeah,
right.
But that's who she is.
That's who
and
she
that
is.
came back to bite her with talking to her daughter.
Yep,
but we'll get
right?
to that. Yeah. Yeah.
So now that confidence that Alicia had is being kind of torn away. So she is in this reactive mode of I've got to defend.
I got to defend my son.
Mama
instincts.
I've got to defend my son. And who wouldn't want someone, this is so different, right? It's not like you're trying to find out who shot the son.
Right.
Who shot him.
Right.
Right. So how could it be justifiable when you know who shot the son? You know what I mean? Like, if you're the mother, that's got to be your thought.
That's it. Yeah, I know who did it.
I know who did it.
I don't care if he was.
I don't care.
Yeah.
He did it, right? And I think that's what we see.
That's true. So true.
Yeah, with Alicia. I don't care who. It'd be different if they were actually looking. We don't know who did it. We're trying to find out. But I know.
Right.
I could drive up to this guy's house.
Right.
I know.
Looking at them, seeing them, and we haven't seen them. I bet you that'll be an intense scene when they do see each other face to face.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
which is why, right? Was it last scene? Was it? Is it? Yeah, it was the last episode when the father just shows up on Beck's lawn. Right. Right. They know where he lives. They're all
how he got out of that situation was smooth, man. Yeah. I love that. That was kind of smooth.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what are some other things that occurred? Let's see what we got on the notes here.
I love the fact that Ashe is this. I'm a mother, and I love the fact that she's this passionate mother.
Yeah.
But this rage thing, I can't wait till we find out a little bit more about where all her anger is coming from, because even the most precious thing to her, which is this little girl, and she hasn't been able to talk to her in almost a week. She finally gets the opportunity to talk to her.
And she spazzes out.
Which little girl, as we've seen her, she's a kid. She didn't drive herself to go shoe shopping. It's definitely the little girl's caught in the middle between the mother and the girlfriend.
Right.
But Ashe just goes in on the daughter.
Yeah, which is just... You gotta walk. I mean, she's a mother, so she should have the authority, but not right now.
Right.
She doesn't.
Right.
And she's gotta understand that, which sucks. That just sucks.
Yeah.
To have your daughter call you from a block number, like unknown caller number, and which I didn't realize that's how those cases went. When you're the one on the, you're not the one basically. Like the father put the case in,
right.
So he just has the rights to kind of cut her off until they go through the process.
This custody hearing that they find themselves in. Yeah.
So,
and they're in this hearing because he's essentially saying she's an unfit mother.
Right. She has issues. She should not be around, essentially, without supervision.
Right.
Yeah.
And not even sure really that they want her to be around the baby because she was supervised before. If in scene 1 we see her at the house.
Right.
When she goes off on the girlfriend.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, and there has to be, like you said, we'll get insight into that at some point. But for her to have agreed to it, what I mean? For him to be like, you need to get help. And she's like, I'm trying. Like, you know what I mean? That's all very... And then when she said she's the only thing that makes sense, when she was talking the last time they really talked to each other.
That was sad.
Yeah, so that's just says... It's a lot of layers to her. Yeah.
And we haven't peeled back layers to her yet.
No, we haven't. We haven't gotten to her yet.
No.
So we just kind of see she's a badass right now.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think about Preston and Sarah Ellis? Ellis, shout out to Ellis's.
They're dynamic.
Yeah.
Oh, well, my only fear is wondering if someone is using someone for their own personal agenda.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it screams that, right?
Yeah, it does.
But, their dynamic right now seems like cute.
Yeah.
Like, it seems nice.
Well, I feel like she's using him.
Probably.
Yeah.
If I had to put my finger on something, like he'll say something and it'll just...
Yeah.
That's gonna be
and
it.
then she plants the little seed. Do you trust Ashe?
Right. When she said that and the way she said it, I was like, there it is.
Yeah.
There
Right.
it is.
Right.
And I mean, they're at the,
And he didn't get it.
no, I don't think he did.
Yes, that's a man thing.
No, he
like,
didn't.
whoop. I was like, how did he not see that? It's like, come on, did you not
man.
see what she just did?
Yeah, he missed it. I mean, I don't know. He's got blinders on now. He likes her, and it's really his only outlet because his father's not invested. He can't trust his brother.
Yeah.
Ashe is in it, so he can't go to her. So like, really, this is his only outlet. We haven't seen. I don't know what the mother situation is, but I wonder what the dynamic is there.
Yeah, we haven't heard anything about the mother, have we?
So one other thing I did want to get to Kiana, the other witness that we saw Corey and Kiana. We saw Corey at the very end, but we saw we saw a lot with Kiana. She is like no longer in the neighborhood. She's in a nice house. She's buying a bunch of stuff.
Designer.
Right.
Like designer.
All right. Like obviously she got paid off. I mean, my question is who?
Like, what are you talking about?
Right. Who has the resources to do that and want to do that? Like, you know what I mean? It's so fascinating.
Right.
I mean, because is that real? Like, is that a thing to that extent?
Could be.
Yeah.
I don't know. But you have to wonder, like, what did she witness? And then if that's the case, what did she witness? And then why didn't Corey benefit? Right?
Yes.
Because they're the two witnesses that supposedly have information on Joey's Campbell's murder. Right. So we see one who leverages and gets out, but we see Corey who's still there. So
he wasn't there.
Well, he would have been, but I think because of the dynamics with him and Preston, right, it forced him to leave.
Right. When it seemed like, I mean, who paid for the hotel?
But he wasn't living like Kiana.
That's true. There's a big difference.
He didn't have any designer. Yeah, right.
Well, I don't know because, maybe the father called someone to be like, okay, we got to get him up out of here or something. Because it seems there's something odd with the father. He didn't call. Obviously, obviously we saw Corey's in a hotel, so the father's quite aware that this was done. And so, I wonder, was this the father's own doing? Was it the same people that Kiana got paid off?
So there we have the father filing a false missing persons report, right? But he's doing it for cover.
He's covering his tracks. Right.
Yeah. To protect his son.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I wonder what we're going to see with Corey, like, going forward and how he's going to interact. I think next episode is going to be really, because they found him, it's going to be a lot of questions answered. I mean, that's my guess.
We hope.
Yeah, hopefully.
We hope. Well, we'll be halfway through the season, so we've got 8 episodes.
That's crazy. Yeah, we're already at episode 4. Oh my goodness. Do you have any predictions for next episode?
Predictions.
There it is.
AfterBuzz.
Pausing for him. Shout out to the engineer.
Predictions. I really want to see. I predict. I don't know if we'll see it in episode 4, but I do predict Sarah is using Preston.
Yeah.
I do believe that is going to definitely come out, and I believe the governor's putting her up to it.
I was going to say the same thing. Yeah, not like I definitely think that that was the plan from the beginning. She was ready from the jump, right after the speech.
Right.
That was it.
She was like, "I'm here."
Right.
Here.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, but to defend her, she does appear.
You gotta defend that.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try because he might be her only outlet too. She's being worked to the ground.
Okay. All right.
Let me hear it. Defend it. Let me hear
I don't believe it. I'm just saying that it's a possibility.
Okay.
I'm just leaving some suspense
All
for
right,
our
your
viewers.
glass is half full. See, I've drank most of my water.
Now, I'm an optimist, a habitual, to a fault almost. Prediction for me. I'm predicting. This is a very broad prediction. Within the next 4 episodes, we're gonna find out what happened to Preston's mother. That's my prediction.
No.
I'm probably right. So,
come on.
Can I think of anything better? I do think that the mother, Jesse's mother, is gonna come back around to Ashe for sure. I don't think she likes what she did.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
She's under a lot of pressure.
She's by herself. Right. And she's devastated.
Right.
And she's just trying to leash out, but her first instincts of my son is not for sale.
Protecting, yeah, which was right.
I think is ultimately
Right,
where
'cause
she'll come
that-
back to.
Governor doesn't care.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't.
None of them do.
Yeah, none
It
of them
doesn't.
care.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Can it get me votes? Then I don't care.
Right.
Yeah.
And her and Ashe's agenda will conflict only if Ashe discovers that Jesse was at fault, which it might be pointing to.
We didn't talk about this. What do you think about the whole frat conversation?
Oh, yeah, that's a big
frat
scene.
house.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
All the irony in him when he discovered, the biggest thing that stood out to me was when he discovered they were upset because he got beat up by a black guy and they're playing hip hop music.
I know.
Oh, I love
that he went over and turned it off.
Yeah, that's how real is that. I had a side story. My co-host for my show after this, Blackish, she is, one of her jobs is she's a tour guide.
Okay.
And so, long story short, I don't want to give too many details, but basically it's this family who, they were just not racist, but very prejudiced towards African Americans, and she was too. And the conversation concluded, and she was telling me the story. She tells the story way better. The conversation had concluded, and she's like, "Oh," and then literally right after they said whatever prejudice thing they asked if she could go to the hip hop station to play hip hop music. You know what I mean? And it just reminds me of like the movie Get Out, where it's just like outside people want to take things that we offer as a culture, but they don't want to understand the things that we have to go through.
Right.
And I love the way Preston handled that.
I do too.
It was great.
And it's so funny because I was thinking the same thing as I had as I was listening to that and listening to the words of the song, right? And then you get this shot of them panning the room and the kids are all on top of one another dancing. Right. And I thought to myself, I cannot believe that is the song they are playing at that moment, right? And then he walks over and turns it off. I was like, yes.
And just walks out. Yeah,
that was a
great
great
is that?
move. I thought so too.
Yeah. So no, yeah, I'm really glad you brought that
but
back
up. But that's a new twist, right? We find out that Jesse was under a lot of pressure. So we heard it from the father at first, and we get a little more into the layers, and we find out that he's now had this encounter with an African-American RA, and who pretty much embarrasses him and humiliates him in front of his frat brothers as he's trying to pledge, right? So the pressure of pledging itself is pretty intense. So now you've got
freshman in college,
you're trying to fit in, and so now you have this, and you find, which is interesting, right, that his being sent to the black community was a punishment, right, for being beat up by a black guy. So that was interesting.
Yeah,
and it got him killed.
Yeah. Oh, the irony.
Right.
Oh man, yeah. And the more we get into this, you just really see how well written this is and how it's connected. And,
it is.
Man, yeah, this was a really good episode. I mean, a continued good episode.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. I almost wish this was a movie because, like, I know there's gonna be some huge cliffhanger in episode 8. I know, and to an extent, this will never be solved for us unless this show lasts forever. Like, I don't know. So there's no hope for me. There's my half glass empty type person. Like, it's just that I think about this. I'm not really ever. Am I gonna ever know the answer? I don't know.
No.
They could draw this out forever.
I would love it. Yeah, it could be a great feature, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I think this would have been a great
I've enjoyed it. I really like the show. I like the writing. I like, oh my God, I love the songs. The songs and the moments and the scenes. They're just like so, I mean,
casting's good.
Yeah, the casting's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've really enjoyed this.
Yeah. Good job, Fox.
It's been a good show.
Yeah,
it's
good job, guys.
Yeah, good show, Fox. Is this, I had heard rumors, I don't know if you heard this, that this is was necessarily just set up as a one time.
Was it just a specialty season?
Just a specialty
season. Well, I could
season.
really see that. I think I'd be happy about that because that means we'll get something solved at the end.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. I could see that because you got some big stars. Sanaa Lathan. It's hard to imagine her maybe just doing TV for like several seasons. But I don't know. That's a good question. Let's look that up and we'll discuss it on the show
I
tomorrow.
love the dynamics of the cast. They've brought some new faces, old faces.
Yeah. I love seeing the father, the guy from Allstate commercials, and also from Love and
24.
Basketball. Yeah.
And 24.
Oh,
that's right. He was the father.
Yes, he was the father. Yes.
I forgot about that. He sure was.
Yes, that's where my brain goes straight there.
Oh my God, you're so right. Oh wow.
Yeah.
He must.
He's in 24.
Yeah, he was the president.
Oh, I didn't even watch
in the old one.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he was the president for a while.
There you go.
Yeah.
You learn something every day.
Everybody's so used to seeing him on the commercial.
Well, yeah, that's his thing. I mean, that was the moneymaker.
Oh yeah.
I know he's banking off of that.
He made a lot of money on that. He's
Yes.
been doing that for years.
Yeah. So
great
man,
show.
it
Great
was a
show.
really good show.
Yeah.
We missed Madison and Michelle, but I think we held it down today.
Yeah, we did.
I did. I hope you guys. I hope they come back next week.
Yeah.
No,
Yes.
we love you guys. What can you tell them where they can find you online?
Everybody, I am Paula Bryant Ellis, and you can always find me on Instagram and Twitter, P Bryant Ellis.
Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, it was good.
This was a pleasure.
Yeah,
It was. I
fun.
enjoy your company.
Thank you. I enjoyed yours as well. Thank you.
So sweet. You guys can find me at Twitter and on Instagram. And my name is DeAnjilo. You can follow me on Twitter at DeAnjilo TV, DeAnjilo TV, and then at DeAnjilo on Instagram. My speed, my brain goes faster than my mouth. But thank you guys for joining us. I hope to see you next week. This show gets better and better. I hope to see you guys.
Yes.
Bye.
Thank you.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz
you later.
From executive producers Maria
The views
Menounos.
expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.